what's up you guys, the Curious Owl here, and today I will be going into books that I want to read that involve some kind of mental health aspect or physical disability that is involved in the story. So similar to my authors of color and LGBTQ author videos that I would like to read from, I have made a small list of books that involve mental health or physical disabilities that I have currently physically that I would like to go into. Now, the mental health portion of it is more so about the psychological effects of trauma and how that affects different individuals. There is, I think, at least one book that I'm a little unsure of if there is a lot to do with mental health in it, so you guys may have to tell me in the comments below if there is some form of mental health involved in it or if there's not, because this other book that I read by that author had serious mental health rep in it, but it was kind of shady, so I want to know if this author is credible in this book as opposed to the other book, which I'll get into a little bit later. Just like with my other two videos regarding these books, I only have the ones physically that I am going to be showing in this video. I do have quite a few other books on my Kindle that I will be looking to find over the course of the month to see if they involve these different things. But if you have suggestions for books that are based in mental health issues or physical disability or mental disability, anything like that, please let me know down in the comments below what you would recommend, because I am looking to increase my library with those types of things as they are becoming, I think, much more prevalent in the YA community specifically, but in books in general. So without further ado, let's get into the very short list of physical books I own that deal with mental health or physical disability issues. First thing is Hate List by Jennifer Brown. I actually tried reading this a long time ago, but unfortunately it was in a time where I was having some things happen that were way too close to home when it came to this book. If you don't know what The Hate List is about, it is about a young man. He's a teenager, he's in high school, he basically goes to shoot up his entire school, and they find that he has what is called a hate list that he and his girlfriend, who is the main character, had created because they both had been bullied multiple times over the course of their lives in their school. But he takes it a step further with going and actually shooting up the entire school, and he is shot and killed. And this then takes place a year after the fact, during her senior year, I believe, and she is still dealing with the after effects of the whole thing. She's still getting a lot of death threats and things of that nature. So I think that the reason I picked this one was more for the fact of trauma and how that affects a lot of people. Also, there's a lot that involves, I think, some of the grooming and some of the mental issues that the boyfriend was dealing with that may play into effect in the story, and I would like to see kind of what some of those issues are that need to be expressed when it comes to writing stories about school shooters and things of that nature. I think I'm in a much better place to read this because at the time I tried reading it, it was just after my own school had a shooter on campus, and it was way too close to home for me at that point. So I will be trying this now with having had enough time pass, I think, from that event to now. The next book is kind of in the same vein, and that is This Is Where It Ends by Marieke Nijkamp. Now, I know that this one's about a school shooting. I don't know what it involves, but it involves essentially like 6 or 7 people, and this is telling the story over the course of not very long, I think like an hour, and just kind of the effects that the trauma of witnessing what is happening to their fellow students has. I think that truthfully, events like this can cause a lot of mental issues for people because of things like panic attacks and anxiety, and having been in that situation before myself, I feel like I can really see whether or not this seems accurate or if this seems to be a little far-fetched. Same thing with The Hate List. And again, also because this one has had enough time between the event I experienced and now, I think I'll be able to handle this one as well. The next book is one more for a physical disability, and that is Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. I have heard so many people say that this is a really cute romance and it is so fun, but the main character is essentially dealing with a chronic illness, physical disability kind of thing, and the story is about her creating a bucket list and her wanting to complete that bucket list, but she needs a little bit of help. So she involves her handyman that works in her apartment to kind of help her with creating this list and completing it, and there's a little bit of romance because of that. So I'm very excited because I've heard so many good things about it, and I've heard that Talia Hibbert is just an amazing author in general. Next is another really heavy one, and that is The Way I Used to Be by Amber Smith. I have heard that there is a lot that goes on in this one about rape and sexual assault, and again, the mental problems that can come with things like that because of trauma and of the event itself causing things like anxiety, depression, things of that nature. So this is a list that deals a lot with very heavy topics and has lasting effects in terms terms of the trauma that is induced to these characters. And that's kind of why I wanted to focus on these ones, because these are not only the only books I really have, but they are very important topics that need to be addressed, because I'm actually writing a book myself. Many of you guys may know about it by now, but it involves a lot about how trauma affects people differently, and how one person deals with their trauma is very, very different than how the next person will, and how important it is that we recognize that, and how we recognize that everyone's mental health is affected differently based on different stimuli. And it is important that we don't lump everybody into one category just because they all seem to have suffered some kind of traumatic event. And the last one that I'm not really sure about whether or not it's going to have mental health rep in it, so you guys are going to have to tell me if it does or it doesn't, is Holding Up the Universe by Jennifer Niven. Now, I read All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven a few years ago, had really liked it at the time, had changed my mind on it and done a video talking about my thoughts on it and how they changed over the course of time. And that one was because I felt that the bipolar representation of that was a little bit extreme. I thought that it didn't seem to feel authentic. It felt very forced, and I don't know necessarily what Holding Up the Universe goes into, but I saw something in the inside of the book that led me to believe there might be some mental health rep. I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly what it is. It's something that's mentioned in the beginning parts before the dedication and stuff. Down here they have a lot of tags and stuff that are involved with the book, and it says that there's brain and wounds injuries within it. So I wonder if there was some kind of violence that has affected the character, leading to traumatic, mental health issues, things of that nature. But I'm not 100% sure on this one. So please let me know down in the comments below if you've read this, if it does involve some kind of mental health issues, or it talks about things like trauma and the after effects of it, because that is kind of what I'm focusing on with these books. So there you guys go. Those are the only books I have physically that deal with some kind of mental health or physical disability kind of thing, mostly related to traumatic events and how that affects people afterwards. And I do have some other books on my Kindle that may or may not work for this, but once it comes to July and I actually get ready to start reading some of these books, I will have a better idea of what works and what doesn't. But thank you guys so much for joining me in this video. If you guys did enjoy it, please do give it a big thumbs up, and if you're not already and you'd like to be, hit that button down below and subscribe, become an owlet in our flock, and I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye guys!